welcome to my channel. So I know in the first video I was boasting about how my hair is nice and silky and clean and oh, I'm Rapunzel, but my hair is just like everyone else's in that it takes forever to grow, which really sucks because I wish my hair grew longer, so I wish I was Rapunzel, but it takes forever to grow and it always gets split ends. Seldom can I avoid split ends. I have to get it trimmed every so often because I get split ends so often. My hair, just like everyone else's, responds similarly to heat and or extreme temperatures, cold or heat. It's also the same in that if I let it go, I just don't do anything for like a whole year, which is what I did pre-COVID, then it just doesn't look good at all. It looks pretty unkempt and gross and just like dry. And although my hair is naturally silky and I've always had medium to long hair, there are a lot of bare minimum basic things that I've had to do to maintain that and to even grow out my hair a little more. So the first thing that I cut out of my whole entire anything having to do with my hair was heat. Unless it was in the summer, in which case I just put my hair in a sort of protective hairstyle so all of my hair wasn't exposed to the sun, so I wasn't getting super sun bleach. So no heat at all. So no hair drying, no curls, no curling irons, no straighteners, no anything. The only time that my hair was exposed to heat was maybe in a shower, and that was when it was sort of like a warm to lukewarm temperature. The only other time was when I was in the sun, in which case I put my hair in a protective hairstyle, maybe a ponytail or a low ponytail or a bun, so that all of my hair wasn't exposed to the sun. So I basically just went all natural. I air dried my hair and I made sure that whenever I air dried my hair, I did it very lightly, making sure that I squeegeed out the ends very lightly. And I made sure my hair was all air dried before I went out, and if it was a little damp when I was going out, then I made sure to wear a hood so that my hair wasn't exposed to the temperatures or other different kinds of weather. So the next basic bare minimum thing that I did was no dyes or no bleach. I know that's a little contradicting since I believe actually last May or June, I did actually dye my hair heavily with bleach. However, I've been, on the road to recovery to rectify that. But so no bleach, no dyes, no dyeing my own hair, no doing any sort of experimentation with any of that. Just keeping my hair away from as much bleach or harsh chemicals like that.
I feel like this scene perfectly demonstrates how people just haphazardly throw dyes and chemicals on their hair and then throw more dyes and chemicals on their hair like Bart does, expecting it to all be okay. Don't do this.
If I did have color or dye or bleach in my hair, then I used color safe shampoo and conditioner. So another thing that I stayed away from completely, I avoided it like it was poison, was dry shampoo. It makes me feel greasy and gross, but I actually just don't think the ingredients in dry shampoo are very beneficial for your hair. I know there are a lot of preservatives or chemicals in there to keep it dry or whatever dry shampoo is supposed to do, but I like to steer away from that just because it's not natural and it doesn't feel natural. Just all natural is key. Meaning, like, try to be as natural as you can. Just like water, shampoos, no preservatives, no harsh chemicals, no SLS or SLES. Just like all natural is best. I drastically decreased how often I showered in hot water. So if I did have on super hot steaming hot water in the shower, then I was just washing my body, which actually just like really not good for your body either because it dries your skin out. But I made sure to keep my hair out of the steaming hot water. I think the most effective thing other than the no heat is washing it every other day minimum or every other 2 or 3 days maximum. Wash my hair. I noticed a huge difference with that because my hair was less oily. People will say, oh, that's a little weird and contradicting, because wouldn't there be like a lot of dirt or buildup or anything like that, just like your oil is kind of like building up? Yes, that is a possibility, and that can happen for a lot of people, which is maybe why they did wash, their hair every day or every other day. However, that has to be the best thing that I did, was washing every 2 to 3 days, because I wasn't overstripping the oils off of my hair because of the shampoo. So I didn't know anything about ingredients or SLS or SLES, which is sodium lauryl sulfate and sodium lauryl ether sulfate. And I'll talk more about that in upcoming videos. But I didn't know about those. So those ingredients specifically, they're very, very common in hair products. And what they do is actually, they're good for like the lathering and, actually cleaning your scalp. However, they're very known for drying out people's scalp. So overstripping your hair is basically taking too much of your natural oils, which is what you need. That's why they keep being produced. So whenever someone says like, oh, my hair is so greasy, and I'm like, well, what do you do? And they're like, oh, I wash my hair every day. I'm like, that's your problem. If you're washing your hair every day, then your body between washings will overcompensate and basically overproduce those oils, which is why you have oily scalp. You take away too much of one thing, then your body is gonna overcompensate and give you more of those oils. So it's sort of like not only an exercise in futility, but it's just the most basic example that I could give for equilibrium regarding hair care. So don't shampoo too often. If you want to take a shower every day, keep your hair up and keep it dry, or you can rinse it in cold water, whatever, you're good with. I don't recommend putting the conditioner on your scalp, but that's just me. I don't recommend it because it can kind of actually give your scalp more oils and make it even more oily. It can kind of throw off that equilibrium as well. Next biggest thing is to deep condition. I always deep conditioned my hair whenever I was getting my hair trimmed. And I got my hair trimmed about, I'll say every 2 to 3 months, depending on how dry and or split my ends were. If you cut your hair on a set schedule every month or every 4 months or every year, every other year or something, then it actually might do a little more harm than good, because that may not be when your hair needs to be trimmed. If your hair gets super dry or drier in the winter, and you usually get your hair trimmed in the winter, then great, because you are in tune with what your hair needs. It needs to be fresh and clean. And the reason I say as needed is because if you're cutting your hair every month, then you're not letting your hair grow. It's good because, if you're cutting off split ends or dead ends, but if you want to grow out your hair, that actually might be the opposite of what you want. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if you're cutting your hair every 6 months or every other year or something like that, then that actually might do more harm than good, again, because you're letting those split ends stay and even break further up your hair. Have you ever done that thing where you're like, oh, I see a split end, looks like a tree branch, and then you just rip it apart? Stop doing that. Don't do it. Don't be like me. I did that a lot. Don't do that ever. It will not only break your hair more, but it'll make your hair a lot thinner. And now, to address the myth that if you cut, your ends down here, then something will automatically affect what happens here. That's a myth. Don't believe that. That makes no sense at all. That's like, oh, I have a cut on my finger, so my whole arm is going to become infected. That makes no sense at all. It does make sense, however, if you have a split end here and then you break it and then you keep ripping it or, picking at it, and then the rest of the strand becomes broken or has more split ends. That makes sense. But that's such a stupid myth that if you cut off an inch here, then the rest of your scalp or whatever is just going to stop growing. If you stop to think about it, how is that logical? Anyway, don't pick at your split ends. Don't trim too often. Trim when necessary. If you notice that your hair is becoming split or super dry or needs hydration, that might be a good time to go get a trim. I do want to emphasize about who does your hair. It should be someone you trust. It should be someone who understands what you want, your hair goals, and just you as a person. And you have to be specific. So like me, I don't know inches to feet or whatever. Like I have a general idea. That might be your hairdresser. That might be your hairdresser where she's like, oh, I get what you want. And then she cut off to like 5 feet. Hopefully she doesn't. Hopefully maybe it's like 5 inches instead of 5 feet. But it's the same idea. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I just wanted an inch off, and I actually wanted this much off, but she ends up taking, this much off, and then I have a panic attack. So be specific. Be specific with what you want. Sometimes I go in with pictures. I cannot explain shit to anyone coherently. I don't know why. So I go in with pictures, and if that doesn't do it, I combine it with my description of like, oh, I want, maybe I want layers, but I don't want layers all throughout my hair. Maybe I just want like a little bit of, shagginess down at the bottom, and only maybe take like this much off instead of this much. One person's visual perception of an inch is different than maybe my perception of what an inch is. And obviously then there's like the actual on a ruler, like what an inch actually is. So I did want to emphasize that, to be specific. So I always got my hair deep conditioned. I went to Keeley's. If anyone's in the Pittsburgh area, please go to Keeley's in the Penn Hills area. They are great customer service, great people, good conversations. They really know their stuff. And it's a nice little small local family business. And it's great. I personally recommend actually conditioning your hair after you get your hair cut or your ends trimmed, because they're nice, they're fresh, they're ready to take in those nutrients and hydration and those ingredients and its benefits. Another thing that I did to help my hair grow out was just keeping the conditioner in whenever I was in the shower. So what I did was I shampooed just my scalp, and then I put in conditioner after rinsing, and then I let it sit on top of my head while I washed my body. I let that sit for, 1 to 3, even 5 minutes, depending on my mood or how much nutrients and hydration I needed my hair to have. And then I thoroughly rinsed out my hair, especially my ends, very lightly with cold or chilly water. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy or talk in terms of temperature regarding shower water or bath water. I personally think no extreme temperatures on either side. That's just my opinion. Now, I'm no expert, I'm no doctor, but in my personal experience, I find that lukewarm to warm water, I think, is fine for hair. And I think a sort of cool to chilly water is also fine for hair. I think if it's super steaming hot or super freezing ice cold, I think both of those polar opposite temperatures are gonna, regardless, be harmful for your hair. I know I've heard from other people saying, I turn to the coldest temperature ever on my shower, and I'm like, great, that's not something I'm ever gonna do because I would freeze my ass off. But I just don't think either extreme is very healthy. I highly don't recommend that. I find that lukewarm to sort of chilly water, especially for my ends, has been quite beneficial because it locks in that moisture, and it actually, in a way, chilly water actually hydrates your hair. Another thing that I started doing was being just a lot gentler whenever I was brushing or combing my hair, regardless of whether it was with a brush, a comb, or just my fingers. Like, you don't want to be ripping your hair out. Like, you don't want to be like Homer Simpson.
Oh, hair, I'll love you when you're old and gray. Huh? Well, two can play at that game.
I don't know if the video is actually realistic in terms of like, if you brush your hair like this, you're gonna automatically lose your hair. But I feel like there's some truth to that. If you treat your hair like Homer Simpson did, it's not gonna be healthy, and it will most likely fall out. There are definitely many times where I was just so rough with my hair, and I was just like brushing, or maybe like I was like tugging or pulling on my hair, and then just like clumps would fall out, and it didn't feel healthy. That because I just wasn't treating it nicely. Treat your hair like silk. Be very gentle with it, and just love it. Take care of it. Sometimes what I even like to do is actually go in and start unknotting individual strands. But it is completely awful for you to just like, oh, there's a tangle, I'm just gonna rip it out. Like, that's not good. Not only will that cause more breakage and damage and split ends to your hair, but it won't be beneficial for your scalp either. It will probably cause even just more irritation. Another thing is hairstyles. I tried to stay away as much as I could from super tight hairstyles. So any that I felt were like tugging at my scalp or made it so I had a headache, I steered away from any and all hairstyles that were tight. That really contributes to breakage, excess and unnecessary tension, and just like overall, in the long run, hair loss or hair fall. If there is excess tension in one area, then it's most likely going to fall out, or there will be a lot more hair loss in that area. If you found this helpful, please comment down below, like and or subscribe. Any and all feedback would be greatly appreciated. If there's anything you think I missed, or if there's anything that maybe I need to be corrected on, please let me know in the comments below. I would greatly appreciate that as well. If there's anything that you want me to cover, or if you have any questions for me, please comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next video, take care and bye everyone.